This is the 8-9 Combo.
This is the 8-9 Combo. I'm Brett McKay. This is Harry Jones. And mate, how have you recovered from two very, very good Champions Cup semi-finals? How are you?
How's it, man? That's true. There are times when you realize our sport is the perfect combination of the foot and the hand and the rhythm and the pace and the balletic brutality. And you realize, that's why we're rugby YouTubers.
Yes.
I've been doing well. I've been corrupting various institutions around me, mostly for the benefit of my nearest and dearest. So I've got a code of honor. And I think that's a bit like rugby too. I mean, Open Sider is basically just breaking the law all the time in the service of his team. Team is king. And I'm happy to notice our numbers keep spiraling upwards.
Quite unbelievable. Quite unbelievable. We will come to that in just a second. But let's launch into his cheers. Who are we giving cheers to this weekend around the world? And we are starting with lower centre of gravity of tries. And Ben Tamifuna got it done for Bordeaux on Sunday. But this is where I sing the try-scoring praises of ACT Brumbies captain Alan Alaalatoa. Going into 2024, Alan scored 2 tries in Super Rugby Pacific in like 10 seasons. In fact, not just Super Rugby Pacific, at all levels. And even at that point, it had been a long time since he'd scored his last, like 5 or 6 years. Suddenly last year, he scores 2 tries in Super Rugby and then his first test try as well. So 2 in 10 years and then suddenly 3 in 1 season. In 2025, his tally is now at 6, but it's 6 in 8 games and 5 in the last 6. He's just an absolute try-scoring machine, and they've all come the same way. Pick and drive from less than a metre, driving at ankles.
Do you think it's because he has so many A's in his name that he just sort of, that keeps it really basic? I've never seen him do anything other than what you just described, either in a carry. He doesn't even look for anything else. No.
And it's funny now. And it's funny now watching it. You think a pick and drive's close. You think it's close. Is this going to be the one? Is this going to be one? No, that's not the one yet. But now Al's at the back of the ruck. This is where they score.
Now, yeah,
he's got very good at it.
I was thinking we were talking about the subterraneanness, and it was Kevin Mialamu that I was trying to think of in the last episode, where he played at a height that was untackleable, unreachable, unplayable. He was dealing with your shins at all times. You just said, okay, Kevin, you're never going to do a line break because you're falling down the whole time. Yeah. Let's see. My cheers is for the pride of Tygerberg High School in the Cape, northern suburbs. Crocky Augustus, who's always had the most beautiful name. I've always been a fan of reading Augustine philosophy. And what I liked about it was they had an extraordinary amount of slow motion. Maybe because the game between the Saints and Leinster was so quick, there was a lot of slow motion. And to see the big number 8 going for the ball, it kicks up very kindly to him. He catches it on the bounce. He shrugs off a Leinsterman. He shrugs off another Leinsterman. Yeah. The jiggle in his body is going in slow motion. And then he runs into Prendergast and erases him and turns him into roadkill. And then he looks and looks. Another guy shrugs off. He looks and he does the offload. There was something incredibly beautiful about a big man in space looking for the offload, finding, who was it? Freeman.
Tommy Freeman. Yeah.
Because Tommy Freeman's everywhere.
Yeah. Who supported every line break made that day.
So we do make a lot of fun at broadcast and camera cinematography, but that was some beautiful camera work. I thought they got good angles. They got touch line, but they also got the end. They got from the goal line back. And there's something beautiful about watching a break coming right at you.
There's a wonderfully artistic slow motion, impact moment, bittersweet symphony underneath it, clip coming out of that. I can see it now.
Yeah.
We can't wait to award Huw Griffin his 8-9 combo cap and rip into another great rugby chat in just a moment. But first, mate, tell the nice people why we would very much love them to subscribe to the 8-9 combo.
Well, we've talked about serum and skin. We've talked about love and what you have to do to show your love for us.
Do you know how many awkward questions I've had to answer in the last 2 weeks about skin serum now?
I know, but look at it now. So now I want to talk to you about transmitting values from one generation to the next, the most difficult problem in life. You think the set of values of mores and social morality schemes. How do you make your teenage boy or girl obey them and not have to just continue to solve problems for them and corrupt the system to make it okay? You've got to transmit those values. That's Shakespeare. That's ancient faith texts. And so we think the 8-9 combo does that for you. Just plop your young ones in front of us, in front of a giant screen TV on YouTube, and subscribe the fuck out of it. Get in there.
Yeah, that'll work. That will work. And look, it has been absolutely incredible in the last. We've added more than 1,500 new subscribers since last week's episode about average team. So, yeah, there's a little bit of pressure now, but we're well beyond. Don't worry about 5,000. We're now well beyond 6,000, and we just thank you all for it. It's just
at least you're wearing incredible. A collar. Good on you.
This is true. If you're not one of the 6,320 something, then and you are watching on YouTube, then just hit that little red button down there in the corner. And if you're listening on Spotify, on Apple Pods, or any of the podcast platforms, then like, follow, subscribe as you need to, and make sure you don't miss an episode.
Do it.
With the Champions Cup finals now set and the 2025 British and Irish Lions tour squad only days away from being named, we thought it's right that we should go north again. That means that we have another 8-9 combo debutant to welcome. You know who his flat cap, and you know him on the socials and his wonderful YouTube channel as HG Rugby. And it is great to welcome to the pod for the first time, Huw Griffin. Hello, mate. Welcome along.
Hello, guys. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm delighted to be here. Never miss an episode. This is one I've been wanting to tick off for a while. When you got Rian back on for the third time, I thought, I like Rian, but
Ringo,
it's my turn.
So I must be getting closer, surely.
Yeah. So look, if Rian is worth 3 of me, I'm totally happy to accept that. But I'm just glad to finally be here, getting my cap.
Yeah. Or maybe it takes 3 Ringos to equal you. So, hey, the little exchange.
Could be true. Could be true. Hugh, we'll rip straight into this. Did the Champions Cup semi-finals make us forget about that the rest of the format was actually a bit of a dud this year?
100%. 100% did. And, people are now talking about, I can't wait for the final. I had someone say that to me earlier. I can't wait for this final. And it's just banished it all, and the whole, I've become so tired of the chat about Leinster's budget, and I've become tired about how Leinster having Geordie Barrett on the bench was a problem, but Toulouse having Santiago Chocobarros on the bench was fine, apparently. And so just to have it fresh, have something new, and having UBB in it is they're probably my favorite French team, but they never do it the easy way. They never do it the kind of, they'll turn up and just do a professional job. It'll be fine. No, they're going to make you suffer to go through it. And I'm looking forward to suffering in a few weeks as I watch them against the Saints. It's going to be, part of me thinks that it's so obviously going to be a 40 points each final that it's actually going to end 9-6 or something like that. But either way, I can't wait.
It sort of feels like it feels like on one hand that it could be a real contrast of styles, but you're right. It also feels like it could easily be 39-36 or something ridiculous.
Yeah, just both teams freeze up.
It's interesting though, Huey. We did a bit of shape studying, and it looked like clearly the number of tries has not shrunk in the semifinals the way it normally does. But what did turn around and sort of reverted back to the mean was it wasn't that great to have too much of the ball and play too much of the rugby. Yeah. And it was the counter-attacking team who spent 1 minute scoring versus the team that has, that takes 3 minutes to score, that was more efficient. What do you see in that? And do you think that's how we'll continue on with Bordeaux versus the Saints?
100%. It's something that I'm noticing across rugby. If you rewind a couple of years to see when Ireland was winning Grand Slams with 110, 120 rucks per game, now we're seeing the teams that are winning are getting less than 80.
50,
Like,
60. Yeah.
And it's absolutely fascinating to me. And this kind of almost sevens influence, I noticed it first with Argentina in the Rugby Championship last year with their sevens influence, about how players are looking leaner these days. And you still got the big men, obviously, who will always add value. But teams like Toulon is a great example in the top 14, willing to give up the physicality in the first 20 minutes to regain the kind of cardio advantage in the last 20. And Toulon scored something like 60% of their tries in the second half. And just, I'm weird enough to be fascinated by how many rucks each team had in a game. And I have noticed that it is dropping. The number of rucks is dropping. And I think that's kind of behind why Ireland is going through, and Irish rugby generally is going through a moment of pain at the moment, because they've been so based on death by 1,000 cuts, so based on having over 100 rucks per game to beat you. And now rugby has moved away from that. And they're having to, that's why I think they're going down the Prendergast route, because they're having to get through this ability to play without having to go through the phases. And that's why it's hurting them, and teams like the French really benefiting from that.
The concept of winning games without the ball is more foreign and more comfortable for some teams over others. That's certainly true.
Well, just the sheer workload it takes to build to a 7th and 8th and 9th ruck when the ruck destroyers are getting so good, because they're not just going for one guy on the pilfer. Most teams now have 5 or 6 guys who can get over the ball. They have successful barge timing where you hit that counter ruck just right. 9s are getting rocked. It's just too much hard work. And you just saw it. It was beautiful to watch the Saints.
Which needs to be stamped out of the game for what it's worth.
Like the Saints were like, hey, look at you working so hard over there. We're just going to do this thing here for about 7 seconds and score. Okay, now your turn. And then Leinster would build and build and build. And it was actually, it was almost like an attritional war. But what do you think when you look at the Saints and you think of this one victory, do you think they can back that up, or is that the one? Do they run now up against reality?
Have they played their final already? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's it. That's exactly the phrase that I thought. And yes, I think there's a chance that they have. But if you look at their league form, it's weird that Saints lost a pool game to Stade Francais, who are pretty much the worst team in the top 14 at the moment. That's a bizarre turn of events that you'd probably say that their season up until now has been a significant underperformance, especially when you consider that Borthwick, probably slower than he should have, has been transitioning England's backline to just being 100% Saints, which makes a great deal of sense if you look at what every other top international team does. The Ben Darwin theory of pick your best club team and then change in the obvious talent upgrades. That's what's happening now with England and Saints. So you'd probably say that their season up until now has been an underperformance. I kind of feel like, and this is just pure vibes, no stats, that Saints kind of have the characters that will take that victory in Dublin and go, well, now we can do anything. And it will just boost them.
Good.
Rather than them thinking, we've played our final. So that's just the kind of vibe that I get from it. I think they will be able to convince themselves that they're the underdogs against UBB, which I don't fully agree with. But I think UBB will definitely be the more nervous team in the final, for sure.
Yeah. We touched on it in the post-mortem, Harry. We wondered now whether Northampton can actually go on a run in the last month of the Premiership based on this newfound confidence that they've found in the Champions Cup that they didn't have a month ago.
I like their back row, and I think they can square off against Bordeaux. And I like their back line, obviously. Who wouldn't? But I do worry about their tight 5 up against a top 14 team, which regularly has to battle against Galacticos and tanks and artillery and aircraft carriers. So I'm interested, Huw, because you'll actually have a team now that you'll be sad about if they lose or happy if they win. So why did you fall in love with Bordeaux, and what's their process of the affinity to a team in a different league? How do you decide
that? It's how they play rugby. Lots of teams can win your head. I talk about head and heart. And lots of teams can win your head, but not everyone can win your heart. And UBB really do that. It helps that my co-host from the Atlantic Coast on the Top 14 Digest podcast, Maz, is a massive UBB fan. So
we love Maz. Absolutely true.
So I get it all from her. But it just seems a very accessible team. They build themselves around accessibility. If you go on their Instagram, it's sensational. It's absolutely beautiful stuff. And they've got a lot of guys who have been wronged, like Mathieu Jalibert and Maxime Lucu, because of the whole Dupont and Untermack thing that's been going on over the last few years. These guys have not only been in the shade, but when they've stepped up and things have gone wrong, they've been blamed. So now to see these players, if you watch them week out and you go, these two are absolutely incredible rugby players. And then now they're getting their flowers, it just feels that reward, that kind of that pain, and then it pays off. And like I said, the way that they play rugby is just so entertaining. They just go for it. And it's either going to go really right or really wrong. And they kind of introduce that pain, and it gives you the downs, but then it gives you the peaks as well. And that's kind of just
how underrated really is Guido Petty as a player. Every time I watch him, I just go, that guy is amazing in every way.
What's amazing is he's not giving out 2 yellow cards every month. That's the big difference.
It's funny that you said about UBB's pack and whether that can stand up to Northampton. Bordeaux are thought of as having one of the weaker packs in the top 14. Their line-out stats are not good, and it doesn't pass the eye test either.
But they don't need it, because Petty's just going to steal your line-out, so it doesn't matter. He's like,
maybe, but
we're still winning 10 line-outs a game. We just only throw 6 of them in.
yeah. They need to get Verfa Fita in there, and then he just steal all the opposition line-outs. But yes, they are thought of having a weaker pack, and I thought that Ben Tamiafuna made a huge impact when he came off the pitch. It was almost game-saving when Toulouse had the scrum on Bordeaux's 5 meter and the tight head was on a warning, and Yannick Brou, the Bordeaux coach, went, okay, it's time to bring on Big Ben. And he came on, and he didn't turn the game because Bordeaux were in the lead, but made an unsafe game safe.
Yes. He rested some. He properly took hold of the little bit of momentum they had, and he made it match winning. I think that's a good way of putting it.
We are big fans on this pod of the piratical, dashing Pete Samu, and the fact that he keeps his shirt tucked in even when he's scoring. And I've never seen anyone untuck his shirt. Look, can I just say that he's the untuckable guy?
No, he's a retucker. Don't worry about that. He is absolutely a retucker.
But is it partly also some of these characters? I think Bordeaux has some splashy characters, Biel Barid, Penot, who looks like his hair comes from some kind of blow dryer in 1987. And then you have Pete Samu. I could put him in a movie right now with pirates, and he would be the dashing pirate, villainous a little bit.
Definitely the characters, especially in that back line. Damien Penot, I feel like I don't know what his English is like, but I feel like if you quizzed him on the laws of rugby, he might not get every single one right.
No.
Get the ball and run forwards. What about this? No,
run forward, pass back.
There was a moment in France against Ireland where Ireland kicked the ball long, and Penot was at the side of the pitch having a cigarette, and he was like, "Oh, I'm supposed to catch that, aren't I?" And
he's the guy on the road trip that gets you thrown in jail. He doesn't know how to be good at being bad. He'd get you in trouble. Yeah.
And then they've got
just to be clear, kids, no one was standing on pitch side having a cigarette.
Officially, there was no TMO angle of it anyway. And then they got Rohan Jans van Rensburg, who's currently injured at the moment. And you look at him and you go, I've heard of barrel chested and always thought it was just an analogy. You are actually a barrel. You are square, and it looks like I don't want to tackle you. I'll just get out of your way. And he's scored some good tries lately. So I like exactly as you say, Harry, characters all over that team that you love. And then I hear from Maz that they're all lovely guys as well, especially the Fijian ones. And they are much more lovable than, say, Toulouse are.
Yeah.
Fair,
Yeah,
fair.
Luku looks like a guy. He might be like a special forces paratrooper kind of guy. He just looks squared away, like he could do anything.
Well, because of how he looks like Jason Statham, whenever Bordeaux do well, there's lots of clips of Jason Statham movies go around and said, Maxime Luku just did this. And it's always him on the phone walking away from an explosion behind him.
Yeah.
Probably an Olympic diver as well or something. Yeah.
Penno will get your team thrown in jail, but Luku will break you out.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about Pinot. You get thrown in jail for something really stupid. It wouldn't be anything worth getting thrown in jail for.
Yeah.
Pinot just looks like that, like a big
not
spaniel.
knowing the laws of rugby. Yeah, exactly. Are we actually better off in terms of the Champions Cup final for Northampton winning through against all the Leinster expectations?
That's a good question. For the interest, yes. I think we were always going to have a French team in it. It probably helps English rugby a lot, which is really annoying. And because you got this, not only just like an English team, and you got the 7th ranked English team in it, and
they're damn likable too.
And no URC teams, and we the URC fans have been really enjoying taking the mick out of the Premiership this season. So to not have that anymore is frustrating, and it probably helps from that point of view of reinvigorating interest. I think if it had been Leinster versus Toulouse, for example, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, cool, again,
here we go again." Yeah.
So having the freshness of it, I think probably does help. Yes.
Is English rugby becoming more likable than Irish? Is that possible?
That's it. Actually, Warren Gatland famously said a few years ago that the Welsh players hate the Irish more than they hate the English.
Interesting.
And I don't know if that's definitely true.
It's getting close because Saints are hard to dislike. I don't know. That Tommy Freeman boy looks like a guy having fun. Finn Smith is the ultimate, humble schoolboy. And then you have Henry Pollock. Okay, sure.
Yeah, I think next time that England play Ireland, I think I'll very much find myself cheering for the team in green. So that's just how it goes. I'm afraid. Just being honest.
Fair. Yeah.
There you go. Let's get on the Lions squad. It's named on Thursday afternoon in a big made for TV event that I have just worked out that I can actually watch, Harry. So that's going to be an important development in our plans for later in the week. What should we expect, Huw? Well, are we going to get some surprises on Thursday when Andy Farrell goes to the lectern?
I definitely think that there's going to be some surprises. Or it might be. Is it surprising how unsurprising a word? I think there's going to be a non-Irish player who doesn't make it, who seems obvious to everybody else. The one that everyone's talking about is Johnny Sexton has gone into writing about how he doesn't like Finn Russell, and now Johnny Sexton's on the coaching ticket. I would be shocked if Finn Russell doesn't get picked. Absolutely shocked, but there's a possibility just because of that. And then I think there will be an Irish player who makes it, who everyone goes, really? Yeah. Because I think that Andy Farrell's got his favourites, as every coach does. And the other thing about it is, I think the number of injured players and the number of players not currently playing Test rugby who are being talked about is higher than I recall in the past, whether that be Tuipolotsu from Scotland, who is currently injured, or a bunch of the Glasgow players actually are injured, Zander Fagerson, or people like Courtney Laws or Owen Farrell or Dave Ribbons or Jack Willis, or Henry Pollock's only got one senior England cap. So there are going to be potentially less kind of players coming into it on form than maybe any time in recent memory. So I think there's going to be a lot of debate, and I think definitely an Ireland player who people outside Ireland, maybe even outside D4, don't rate is going to make it, and that's going to rug some people up the wrong way.
So inherently, it's a little bit too soon for Andy Farrell to go into game shape, game plan. Got to have this guy as my player number 34, because if I don't, Joe Schmidt's going to do this. It's more along the lines of picking the best team, isn't it? Like, this is my mighty team and I will roll over you. Or does he start thinking, I've got to have more open siders, I've got to win the battle on the turf, or I need to have aerials? Do you think, how far ahead can Andy look?
I think he's got to look far ahead. I think he's got to look far ahead because it's the student versus the master, Joe Schmidt versus Andy Farrell. And everything that Irish rugby is currently, the seed of it is Joe Schmidt. He started it all. He built that. He created what we currently think of as Irish rugby. And I've spoken to coaches who say that they've been to like briefings with people who coach, like Paul O'Connell doing masterclasses and things. And the terminology he uses is Joe Schmidt coins phrases, words and phrases. And Joe Schmidt is just begging Andy Farrell to pick Ireland. He's just going, please just pick the Irish team. And that's got to be on Andy Farrell's mind, because he's like, if I don't have much time on a Lions tour in terms of weeks, in terms of days on the training field, I don't have very many. So that's telling me I've got to pick the players that I know, the players that I trust. That's what Warren Gatland always did. But if he does that, that's what Joe Schmidt wants him to do. So he's thinking, if I'm going to catch out the chess grandmaster that is Joe Schmidt, I've got to bring in things that he's not expecting. But unfortunately, that's things that I don't know either. So it's fascinating. I think Andy Farrell is going to be thinking long and hard, because you have to get up very early in the morning to get the better of Joe Schmidt.
He's second, third, fourth guessing himself the way you've said that.
I think so. I think so. Honestly, that's how much I think of Joe Schmidt. Like, he is the chess grandmaster. He will have a plan. He will have made a plan.
Yeah. If you look across the 5 years ago till now, England's been the tougher matchup for Australia than Ireland. Australia has sneakily done really well against Ireland and pushed them very close. Not a lot of wins there, but really awkwardly close. Even
when form lines have been against them,
even kept into one or two line breaks at times, and that's very interesting. Whereas England has sort of, I don't know, what do you think, Brett? Lost 10 games, England, Australia. It's been horrific.
There's and you can push it back even to when Eddie Jones was England coach. There was
the whitewash.
Absolutely. It's just been an awkward and uncomfortable matchup of anyone of the home nations at the moment. It's quite interesting.
So how are you guys going to watch the Lions announcement? Huw, I picture you, since I think you're the organizer of Glastonbury, but with a different name, and that you probably run a lot of raves, and that you probably have some you probably have a rave going on, and you are able to use your 17 screens and your cat on your shoulder and absorb it. I am a big prince of the alphabet, so I know that they announce it alphabetically. So Bundy Aki, your moment is now. Either your name's going to happen or it's not, right away. And the other early guy is Sam Cummings, that's C last name. So I'm kind of who missed out kind of guy. How do you guys watch it?
Oh, good question. Well, we've never actually had a Lions squad announcement like this before. So
there was a holographic one during the COVID, if you remember.
That's
Alan Wendone had to stand next to an empty blue screen, and then things appeared.
Yeah, that would have been weird, wouldn't it? Yeah. Look, it's a good question. I don't know, to answer your question. I don't know. I know you have, Harry, but I don't have a long list of names of who I'm expecting to see. So I haven't actually given too much thought as to who might miss out and who maybe should miss out. I don't know. It will be interesting to see the event itself, to see how that actually goes down, but then to see the player reactions, because how much of that is going to be genuine? How many of them know already now, a couple of days out, that they're in? Like, how many of them are going to be finding out on the night? And does that mean that there's actually going to be 60 players in London and there's going to be 15 disappointed at the end of it? I don't know.
And will Andy hug Owen? Will there be a tender father-son moment?
Well, that's a question, Huw. Like, how many offshore players can we expect? Certainly, there's been an increase in Owen Farrell mentions and discussions in the last week. Yeah. Courtney Laws is back in the press saying the dream's not dead. There's plenty of argument for Jack Willis. You mentioned Dave Ribbons there before. How many offshore players do you think can be picked? Because it still amuses me that players can get picked for the Lions who can't get picked for their own country.
Yeah, and playing for the Lions does not tie you to a nation, so does not affect Dave Ribbon's Springbok eligibility by playing for the Lions either.
It doesn't either.
I think it would still be a surprise if one France-based player got picked. Because if you go through them all individually, there's a very good chance that Jack Willis or Dave Ribbons will be involved in the latter stages of the top 14, which means they would miss the first couple of tour games.
Yeah.
Of course, the same goes for someone like Blair Kinghorn, but he's obviously is probably very high up in the expecting to go, although he is injured at the moment. Owen Farrell is a fascinating one because I had a look at his record for Racing. Racing have been toilet this season.
Yeah.
But most of the time when Owen Farrell has been, at least in the match day 23, they have won. And there is definitely something intangible about Owen Farrell. And if you look at the fly half positions, depending on how many he takes, you're looking at least one, maybe two inexperienced fly halves there who are still going to be in their first season of Test rugby. So is that definitely the kind of the person that you want on the pitch in that critical scenario, or would you rather have Owen Farrell? And again, Johnny Sexton has gone into writing and saying that he wants Owen Farrell in those kind of situations. So look, if he does pick Owen Farrell, it will be, oh, you've picked your son. I think he should be cut some slack because of the inexperience in Lions terms that's going to be in this team.
Yeah.
And just having that character, because he is valuable in and beyond just what he does while he's holding the ball between the lines. So that's the one for me. Jack Willis, as you guys call him on this pod, is the other one that's probably on merit deserves to go. But number 7 is such a competitive position.
Yeah.
And especially if the Wallabies are going to pick 7 open sides as well, then do you go fire with fire or do you go against that? And also the thing about the number 7s available to the Lions is a lot of them are quite small.
Yeah.
And then if you're talking about if the second row is going to be Mauro Itoje and Ty Byrne, they're not, by international lock standards, especially large men. So are you actually now looking at getting an Ollie Chesham in at 6 to provide that extra ballast? So that's the kind of level that
and that's why the Courtney Laws narrative has come.
I put it to Courtney Laws that if he was serious about wanting to go on this Lions tour, he would have stayed in Northampton and carried on playing for England for an extra season.
I think there's an element of that.
If he was serious about wanting to just give me one more season, and they would have given it to him.
Yeah.
I think going to the Pro Day 2 and then going on podcast and saying, I still want to do it. It's like, well, put your money where your mouth is.
Pro Day 2 is good, but the pace of game is, you become used to a much slower game. And one thing's for sure, when they hit to Australia, they're going to be playing a quick sort of rugby. I actually would put Ty Byrne at big blind side. I like him playing there for the Lions. And I think there's a way to just blast the Wallabies off the pitch that way and compete at lineouts. I think when you stick a Jack Morgan and the way England's been playing with 2 Curries, it's a little bit small up against Valentini and those guys. I mean, those are big boys.
Two Curries and an Earl.
Yeah. So what I did, guys, is I kind of just went through who I thought had to be on. So the first, easy. It's Mauro Itoje, it's Dan Sheehan, JGP, Alex, Finn, the Finn with 2 N's, Ty Byrne, Will Stewart, Ellis Gange, Huey, and Tuipulotu if he's healthy, and kind of those obvious ones.
Yeah.
And the minute I do that, then I get into the middle ranks, and you're getting the Kinghorns, the Lows, the Keenans, and then you get to this like number 30, and you're looking at, is it Nikki Smith? So instead of doing positions, I try to figure out, and so now what do I need? And then I had to find me a prop that can play both ways, and then I realized at some point, a big decision is going to be how many 10s you take if you're thinking that Owen's a 12-ish 10, and whether you need, 4 hookers, 4 scrum, like where are you going with your extras? And that's where it gets to be really funky, because I would big boy locks. You get Ribbons or Cummings as your extra lock, because I think in a series of 3, you're always running out of locks.
Yeah, I see that. Owen, the thing that I got told today is that Andy Farrell took a squad of 40 to the tour of New Zealand with Ireland a couple of seasons ago. So that suggests that he might take a larger squad here. I think if it's a smaller squad, the question, that exactly as you said, Harry, is how many 10s? It could be 2 10s and Tom Jordan. Tom Jordan is the one for me that people are talking about as a bolter. I kind of think he's more than a bolter.
You said the bolter word. You said the B word.
I know. You have to. It's contractually obliged.
Smoky.
But I think, yes, it could be 2 10s and a utility. That's what they did in 2013. They had Stuart Hogg as the cover 10, played 10 against the Brumbies, and in the game that they lost.
Yep, correct.
So that could be it as well. Hooker is another one. Gatland's took a risk with Wales a couple of World Cups ago. He took only 2 hookers, and that might be another a thing that Andy Farrell does as well. I doubt it, but that's another position where you're kind of going, how many do you actually need? Second row is the fascinating one for me, because when you start writing the contenders down, you go, there's not actually that many second rows demanding selection, which is why I think Andy Farrell will just default to Ireland. To answer your question of how I'm going to be watching,
so you go James Ryan on that, James Ryan and Joe McCarthy.
I think Joe McCarthy tours definitely, because 4 lock is Itoje and a backup for Itoje.
And Ryan, the unlucky man, or no?
He could be. I've got Chesham going as a 6.
Oh,
yeah,
which
right.
Potentially means that, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Ryan go. I wouldn't be surprised to see Ryan go at all.
Here's a question for you both. You can both answer this at the same time. The 2025 British and Irish Lions captain will be
Maro Itoje.
Yeah, I had a feeling you both said that.
I think so. So here's my funny one, Huw. I think all the fly-offs, and there will be 4, they will all have the F name. It's going to be Finn, Farrell, and Ford. Mark it down.
Ford. You're
George
the first
Ford.
person I spoke to who thinks
from
Ford.
the blue. 99 cap, George Ford, never a Lion. Here we go.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I get to see him being the better version of Bernard Foley and winning the game.
There's your bolter.
I don't think he'll take 4 10s. Is my answer to that.
No.
Not 4 specialist 10s.
I think there could easily be 4 scrum halves, but I don't know there'll be 4 10s.
All on the bench at the same time. Like Razzie.
yeah, South African style. Yeah. One of them covers back row.
Yeah. I'm not as much of an Alex Mitchell mega fan as some people are. I did a look-see at the stats from the Six Nations, which is a limited sample size, only 5 games. But Ben White came out of it better than Alex Mitchell did from the stats.
Ben White's on the plane for sure, isn't he? He's got to be.
Well, I think
one of the 3.
I think Gibson Park and Thomas Williams are definitely on the plane. Thomas Williams is very similar to Gibson Park in terms of his stats, and he can play maybe faster than Gibson Park, and he can play. He's more of a threat ball in hand in terms of standing up a man in a phone box. So I think he definitely goes. So I'm not sure that they will take 4 scrum halves. I can see it, but the other thing is about the defense coach is going to be Simon Easterby, and Ireland's defense system has Jameson Gibson Park getting very involved.
True.
Whereas England's defensive system has Alex Mitchell, hiding on the wing.
Yeah. Last question on this. How do you think this event is actually going to go on Thursday? Because certainly the reports in the last few days has been that if you want to get a ticket to the O2 on Thursday, it's really no problem at all. Like there hasn't quite been the groundswell of demand that they were expected. There was a reporters reading that said that there was a ballot first, and they got to the end of the ballot, and everyone who was in it got a ticket, and it's actually not that difficult to still get a ticket.
Friends and family
could even be available on the day. So, how do you think the event itself is going to go down?
Well, the traditional thing that rugby does in this situation is to give a load of free tickets away to under 10s teams. So maybe we'll see that.
just going to bust school kids
with flags, and like that, and they'll play touch on the stage at halftime and things. I don't know. And I think maybe holding it on a Thursday maybe has a part to play in that. Maybe hosting it in London, which isn't necessarily a rugby stronghold, also has a part to play in that. And it's so new. It's just like, it's not the kind of thing like Formula One held its launch events and it went surprisingly well this season.
Yeah, it was well done.
And everyone had low expectations of that. So it just doesn't. Rugby's not famous for putting on a show, apart from in France. Rugby's not famous for putting on a like razzle dazzle event.
The thing with Springboks announcements or the French is a high percentage of the players can actually hip hop and put on a move. So when you do like the whole rave DJ thing, it doesn't look ridiculous cringe. If you announce this Lions team and you do that, I mean, we'll see it just to be funny, but it's not going to be good.
Yeah, it's 40 white guys trying to dance to R&B doesn't.
I don't want to see Ty Furlong do that. No, please.
It's not actually the players who are going to be there, and it's kind of whether they'll be sat in their seats like the Oscars. Is it? I thought they'd all be at home.
Yeah,
that's really.
Yeah, you might be right. I don't know. I don't know because
it's going to be Bill Beaumont just talking from the.
Because you'd have to get an invite.
Well, yes, you would have to get an invite to the event. And what does that mean? And if they're there, then obviously they're going to be in team kit. So that's why I say
it would have leaked by now. If they had going to be,
yeah.
We should have arranged this, guys. YouTubers should take control of this. We know how to do an event.
We'll definitely do it for 4 years' time.
I kind of thought it was going to be at the O2, but I thought it was going to be in like the green room at the O2 with like the journalists in a semicircle and like.
No, it's more like a little mini concert. They're trying to do. They're trying to have a thing. It's up your alley. You run concerts, so
it's just going to be one big all-in press conference.
So at least we're now all going to be watching Fascinated because we've all got completely ideas of what it's going to look like.
Absolutely. Let's get into some run homes and let's particularly look at the ERC and Super Rugby here because it is going to be fascinating to see where things go from here. We'll start with the URC. The run home for the next few weeks. What do we got? 3 rounds to go? 4 rounds to go? Two rounds to go. Sorry, I've miscounted. It is just going to be fascinating to see how that mid-table group plays out, how close to Leinster, Glasgow, and the Bulls can get. Where do we start here? What do you think, Huw? What are you looking for over these next 2 rounds?
So all 4 of the Welsh regions tour South Africa for the last 2 rounds.
Yep.
They're all 4 down there. The Scarlets and the Ospreys have Lions and Sharks. The Dragons and Cardiff have Bulls and Stormers. You would much rather have Lions and Sharks, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
The Dragons versus Bulls is not going to be fun at Loftus, I don't think. I think Cardiff can get try bonus points. It's kind of their superpower this season is Cardiff can get 4 try bonus points against most opposition. They got one against Leinster in Dublin. So I think the only team to do that up until Saints this season, actually. So I can see them scoring 4 tries against the Stormers and losing, but I can see them also like last season's Bulls. Do you remember they used to switch off around the 60-minute mark and just let teams back into it? So whether that returns as well, I think Ospreys have shown that they don't mind a win down in South Africa. Lions are beatable as well. I'd like to think, I'm a Scarlets fan, I'd like to think the Scarlets could target that Lions game. So that's kind of the one for me. So it's still very much in their hands. And then whether Munster can just goddamn scrape themselves back into the playoffs again, because at the moment there's only one Irish team in the top 8.
Yes,
which is unheard of, absolutely unheard of. So that's the kind of one for me. And also the narrative every week in the URC is how are the Sharks going to be awful and yet still win this week?
And they're doing it. So there you go. The most likely scenario, Brett, I've run it out every way I can think of, is Sharks will host the Stormers in a cracking derby, 4 versus 5. I think the Bulls do nip Glasgow at the post and get to 2. And then I think Munster creeps in God damn it.
So Munster's got Ulster this weekend.
I think Edinburgh misses out. Yeah.
Yeah. So Scarlets are on 43, Benetton are on 41. They're 7th and 8th. Then we've got Munster 41, Edinburgh 39, Ospreys 38, Ulster 38.
Mm-hmm.
Ulster and Edinburgh still have positive for and against.
I don't think Ulster can get there just with the way that they end up.
No, I'm not sure they win this weekend to start with.
Benetton is sort of basically in a knockout mode almost, playing against the Bulls. That's not going to be fun.
Well, they've got Glasgow this weekend.
And all the South African teams have gotten their players back. So you're actually playing against the proper teams at home. So I think it's always set up that way that you thought Stormers would probably finish strong, get to about 5th in the league. But I'm with you, Hugh. I think Munster finds a way to sneak in there anyway.
Yeah. Well, if Benetton have got Glasgow this weekend, and then who have they got in the last round? I say trying to quickly get ahead.
Leinster has to play Glasgow in the last round too.
Benetton play Munster in the last round. So that could actually be for 8th.
Could be.
That's the fun thing about it is teams playing each other are going to take points off each other, which kind of helps teams above them is that they're going to take off each other.
Yeah, it would be thoroughly Munster to sneak in and then just start knocking people off.
For Munster, the knockout starts now.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, even Cardiff have got Bulls this weekend, Stormers next weekend. So I wouldn't be surprised if they won one of those.
I would be surprised if they won. I wouldn't be surprised if they got 2 losing bonus points out of at least one.
Yeah, that's fair as well.
I think Cardiff Stormers could be a fun game.
It'll be 85-67.
Cardiff's defense has actually been really good. Cardiff's defense has been a bit of a meme all season up until now, but in the last 2 rounds, they've actually gone, if we all stand in a line and tackle people who run at us, do you think that will help?
Yeah.
There is no defense that's been conceived or speculated on or imagined that can stand up to Sasha Feinberg.
The Stormers are Sasha, and Sasha is the Stormers at the moment. If they achieve anything this season, it's 100% because of him.
Yeah, no doubt. Cardiff could be the only team in the URC finals with a negative for and against.
And this is one of mine and Harry's favourite discussion points is the bonus point system, because Cardiff are gaming the system in terms of it doesn't matter how many we lose by, as long as we score 4 tries, we'll be in and out.
Yeah,
we're entertaining. Let us in.
Similarly, then Super Rugby has got 4 rounds to play, and it's the last few weeks we've seen a good chunk of table movement. The top 3 or top 4 have been pretty well unchanged, but it's from 5 down to 9 basically is where the chopping and changing and the tumble drying has come. And so this weekend the Waratahs play the Reds in what is essentially a must win for the Waratahs, but at the other end of the table the Crusaders play the Chiefs, so it's second against first. It's and sitting back waiting is the Brumbies who play the Crusaders in the final round, and that could well decide who finishes second.
It's got big
where is that game?
Harry index implications, by the way.
That one, that Brumbies Crusaders game is in Canberra here.
Ooh, that's it. That makes it interesting. All I care about is Moana Pacifica get into the playoffs. That's all I want.
Yeah. And I think that's what everyone's waiting for. So they're in a playoff spot now for the first time in their existence. Have they got what it takes to actually stay there? They've got
Stephen Jones, Welsh legend, coaching their attack.
Yeah,
that's the thing about Stephen Jones. His debrief on Monday mornings must be so fun. He goes, "Well, we scored 40 points again, but we lost. But that's not my fault."
What are you guys?
That's kind of what it is. Of course, I love the Drua as well, and it's just so frustrating. The Drua, you feel like. If the Drua get a penalty on the 5 metre, they should say, no, thank you. We're going to go back to our own half and we'll take the tap and go from there, please. We are more likely to score from there than we are from 5 metres away from the try line.
I can see
it. Trying to be funny, but I think you're right.
I could see a referee standing there saying to Vito Cannavero, you've got a choice here. You've got this one here, 10 metres in front of the post, very, very kickable, or we can go back over there 5 meters in from touch near halfway. What do you want to do?
Yeah,
we'll go back there. We'll go back there and kick for line.
Yeah,
I see your excitement, guys, about Arte Savea and the Drua, but for me, it's all about Tane Edmed, who's reported by the Sydney Morning Herald to be headed to number 10, taking it over from Crossan, Layson, Leighton, Crossan.
Yeah, that's an interesting move. It sort of feels like, well, we've tried everything so far, so we might as well go back here and see.
One of the
how
great
it goes.
injustices of the rugby world this season is Tane Edmed languishing on the bench.
I also see the point of when you say, why would you drop the fly half who's literally just left Queensland last year for when they're playing Queensland?
Because he's not a 10 and he just kicked the ball 5 meters behind him on an up and under into touch and looks like, I don't know, the coach's son-in-law or something.
Do you think Brett? What do you think are the odds of it?
That's awkward. That's awkward only because I know the age of Dan McKellar's daughters.
Oh, sorry, like that type.
They're like my daughter's age. So no, that's definitely not the case.
Are we going to see an Australian Super Rugby winner this year? Because if the record books just show that the Crusaders just won it again, or we'll check the Wikipedia page in 10 years' time and go, oh yeah, the Crusaders won it, and it won't tell the story of how Australian rugby, maybe on average, has been better than Kiwi rugby in Super Rugby this season, at least over the course of the season.
Yeah, well, we talked last week about during our quest to find the most average team in Super Rugby, and I looked at average table positions, and at that point there was 4 Australian teams in the top 6, and they had all been for the last month. So the average table position for the Australian teams was all inside the top 6, whereas
off the count,
the Hurricanes, the Blues, all the Highlanders were all well outside. So maybe is the answer to your question. It's all going to come down to the Brumbies will be a chance if they can get that top 2 finish. If they have to go to New Zealand and win a semi-final, that's what makes it difficult. I think it's easier to go to I think it's easier to go to New Zealand for a one-off final and try and win that as a bit of a smash and grab, to use that famous phrase, than it is to have to do it 2 weeks in a row, which is what they'd have to do if they finish 3rd or 4th.
And then James O'Connor slowly turns around and kicks the ball over his own posts and takes his shirt off and goes, I was Australian the entire time.
Big reveal. This might be a stupid question, Brett, but is there a scenario where
this is the forum for that?
Reds have to play Brumbies in the semifinals, or are they necessarily going to be indifferent?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Is it called a semi-final?
They will be semi-finals, yes. So the
top 6 finals.
As the top 6 will have qualifying finals, because they're not quarterfinals. They'll be qualifying finals into semi-finals. Yes, if the finals are played this weekend, the Brumbies and Reds would play.
Is that better, maybe, to have Derby, and then you clear the decks, and then you have Aussie versus Kiwi?
Nah. From an Australian point of view, we want 2 in semi-finals.
Okay.
You don't want them knocking each other out in the first week.
Yeah, so that's the collision course it sets up for me. Is just, to me, clearly on the Kiwi side, there's 3 teams who still have, some say, because the Canes are wedged their way back in there. And then it's just obviously Reds, Brumbies. And it's just, that's all it is. The other 2 teams have given up the ghost.
Yeah. What will be interesting, so the Brumbies have got 6 points on Queensland now. And then the Reds are on 28, the Hurricanes 26, Moana 24, and then the Blues and Force and the Waratahs, I suppose, are on 22, 21, just outside. So Moana and the Blues play next weekend. Moana have the bye this weekend. So that's going to be a crucial little game, never mind the local rivalry part of it.
Auckland Derby.
And the Hurricanes have got a really tough run home. They basically play like everyone above them. Like they've got the Crusaders at some point as well. So
they were impressive against the Chiefs, though.
Yeah, and if
they were impressive against the Brumbies the week before that too.
If Leinster's not using Geordie, then get Geordie back for, I reckon.
I joked that earlier this season, Geordie's going to be would have been checking the Canes results and been like, "Can I stay? I need to find a cupboard to hide in." And now, last couple of weeks, he's like, "Oh yeah, okay, thank goodness." But then I see the people in New Zealand are talking about, like, does Geordie automatically come back and start? And I'm like, yes.
Of course he does. Like, have a look around at 5 other blokes playing 12 at the moment. Are you honestly trying to tell me that he is playing worse than them? Come on, you like watch a bit of rugby outside your borders. God.
Yeah.
Anyway, Huw, this has been a fantastic chat, mate. We've really, really enjoyed this. Thanks so much for giving us a little bit of time. We've got so much to watch and enjoy and get frustrated about over the next month or so. But thanks for being part of it.
My absolute pleasure, guys. I never miss an episode of this pod. I'm absolutely thrilled to have been invited on.
This is the 8-9 Combo. I'm Brett McKay. This is Harry Jones, mate. Great to hand Huw Griffin an 8-9 debut. That was a fantastic chat. I love that.
HG, as honest as the day is long, such a good boy. Always knows his stats, always knows interesting angles on it. It's not just regurgitating stats. He's putting it into different ways. Really happy he came along.
Yeah, I've just got this vision. I sit and watch rugby, and I've got pencil scribbling of who scored what try and what minute. I've got visions of Huw sitting there leaning forward in his chair just counting rucks.
With a 3D, some kind of 3D thing.
Yeah. Very, very, very true. We'll be back with the weekend post-mortem, looking at all the big games and all the big results from the weekend. That's out late Saturday, early Monday, depending on where you are in the rugby world. But let's rip into games of the week, mate. And we've sort of touched on this to some degree in Super Rugby and the Irks, certainly, but we'll flip through the rest of them. There's 2 standout games there. There's only 4 games of Super Rugby this weekend. There's 2 standouts there for me. Waratahs Reds in Sydney on Friday night, which is very much must win for New South Wales. But the clear pick there is Crusaders Chiefs in Christchurch on Saturday, second against first. That's going to be an absolutely thumping game of rugby. I genuinely can't wait to watch that.
Yeah, especially since I get up in the middle of the night to watch some of these games. I don't do all of them. And that Chiefs Crusaders, that's been circled for a long time.
Yeah.
I keep thinking I'm really going to enjoy that game, no matter what happens, because it's truly neutral for me.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. So it's round 13 Super Rugby. There is 4 rounds there to play, as I mentioned. It's round 17 of the Irk, the penultimate round of rugby. Again, there's 2 that stand out here. Munster Ulster in Limerick on Friday night is 9th against 12th, but the winner can get into the top 8. And then Bulls Cardiff in Pretoria on Saturdays, 3rd against 5th. There's implications for both teams there, I think. So I think that's just a really interesting contest for all the reasons that we spoke about earlier with you.
Yeah, and it's been a really tough year for Irish rugby. Leinster was the only one sort of carrying the flag, and it was the first time that so many didn't qualify for the later rounds.
Yeah.
There's even this possibility that no one gets into the playoffs except for Leinster. So I think that's going to be a real dogfight. I agree.
Yeah,
that's a good match to watch.
Yeah. No, I think it will be. It's round 16 of the Premiership in England. There's 3 rounds to play there. Leicester Sale on Friday
First
night.
One up.
That's the pick. First one up. 3rd against 2nd. Top 2 is in play for the winner.
Both trending up really hard too. Sale is like a different team, and Leicester gets keep better and better and better every week. Good job, Michael Checker.
That's going to be a ripping game. I'm certainly going to try and catch that, and I'm going to try and catch a bit of Bristol Bath on Saturday as well. That's in Cardiff. That's the big day out, and I wondered about them. Really wonder how many tickets. Wonder how many what sort of crowd they'll get. There's already more than 50,000 tickets has been sold for that game. So all the Welsh teams are in South Africa, as Huw mentioned. So no rugby in Wales this weekend. They're all going to watch Bristol and Bath though, which is great.
Just around the corner, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thinking of those 2 coaches on Friday night, I would like to see Alex Saunderson and Michael Checker square off on a cage match. I'd watch that.
Do you want to see him standing on the sideline, like we saw Toulouse and UBB?
We talked about this, was it with Rian, about different things we like in different leagues. I really do love the top 14 fashion of standing next to each other and scowling and shrugging and gesticulating. I just love the melodrama. It's beautiful.
Yeah, all that. It's all great. It's round 23 of the top 14 this weekend. There are 4 rounds to play, or 10 or 20. I'm never really sure.
It's the denouement.
Yeah, exactly. Cast Claremont on Saturday's 5th against 6th, but down the bottom of that list is your pick. Toulon v Toulouse in Toulon on Saturday, 3rd against 1st. Toulouse 10 points clear. So the question there is, how many players are they going to rest? How much are they still hurting from the semi-final loss? Why have Toulon and Toulouse played 6 times this year already? All the big questions out of that game.
If you want to see a fight on the rugby pitch,
that'll be the one.
Yeah, tune to that one.
Yep, that's easy. That's easy. It's round 16 in Japan, League One, and I've got a left field selection for you here. Down that list, you can see Saitama Wild Knights v Suntory Sun Goliath on Saturday. That's 2nd against 6th. There'll be a bit of a finals warm up because the top 6 is set. They're all all set and all that. So my pick for you this week is actually the first game of the round. It's the Ryasu D-Rocks v Mitsubishi Dynaboars at the Chichibu in Tokyo on Friday night. And I'll tell you why I've picked that game as the games of the week, mate. It's 12th against 9th. So it doesn't exactly stand out, but Mitsubishi have to win that game to stay clear of a relegation game. So there is genuine jeopardy on that. And I just think Ryasu haven't had the greatest year, but this would be the perfect weekend of shithousery to suddenly find a bit of form.
I'll go with Mitsubishi because that's what Warwick Galant, the great fullback for the Stormers, I'm sure that's his favorite team.
Yeah. Well, and
Galant.
Curtly Aronson is the star fullback there, isn't he?
Oh, and he's so good. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been going.
Great fun to watch those games, actually.
Yep, fast, very fast. And it's Major League Rugby round 12 to finish this weekend. And again, a couple of picks. Like San Diego against the goddamn Houston Sabercats on Saturday is 3rd against 2nd in the Western Conference, but the pick is clearly New England v Chicago on Saturday. That's 1st v 2nd in the Eastern Conference. Winner takes top spot. There's plenty to play for there. Chicago had a good win just in the last few days.
Yeah, I think that's in the Quincy area.
It's in Quincy, Massachusetts. Yeah,
great fun. They always put on a big concert. There's always a clam bake or lobster rolls or something. So get out to the park and support it. Get into it. Anything else we need to cover off?
I believe that's it. I think it is. That then is another great episode of the 8-9 Combo behind us. Our thanks to Huw Griffin for joining us. And you can obviously catch him at HG Rugby on YouTube. Find him on Twitter as well. And he's always putting out plenty of good gear. So make sure you're following him across all the platforms and you won't be disappointed. Harry and I remain on the socials in our usual places at Harry Baldy Jones and at BMC Sport. And you can find the 8-9 Combo on Twitter, on Blue Sky, and obviously on YouTube as well, as so many of you have. Share us as much as you can. Leave us a rating and review wherever you can. And just tune in and follow us and subscribe. Make sure you don't miss an episode. This is the 8-9 Combo, the short side set piece combination you didn't realize you needed in a rugby podcast. I'm Brett McKay. This is Harry Jones. Sean Maloney is ready to go in the closer. And we will be back in a few days' time for a bonus episode. Charlie Morgan joining us as we dissect the Lions squad announcement late Thursday, early Friday.
Come play with us.
Here goes Jones with another bruising run. He links up with McKay, who pops back to Jones. They can't. They won't. They will. What a try. The Dream Team Combo go in again.